So, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the DevChat podcast. Today I'm here with Andres. Did I say it right?
Yes, you said it right.
Yeah. So Andres, he's a developer. He built Mandarin, Deno, a TypeScript framework that we'll talk about later. So first of all, thank you for accepting the invitation. And I think the natural thing to start with is to like say a few words about you and like who you are, what you do, and things like that.
Sure. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure, actually. It's my first podcast, so I will enjoy this experience. So I'm a software developer, and I live in the US. I've been working for the last year and a half, I would say, in two of the largest tech companies in South Florida, which is an state of US. And I've been developing for quite a while. I'm actually really young, so I started developing really young. I would say that's been the great experience of my life. Well, when it comes to coding, I think it's something that I'm really passionate about. So my background, that's my developer, and I've been working in the tech. I'm not from US. I'm from Venezuela, and I've been living here in the US for the last 4 years. So it's been a great experience.
Yeah. So like how did you get into programming in the first place? Like first projects that you build and stuff like that.
Sure. So that's a funny story, I would say, because as I said, I was really young.
Yeah.
So right now I'm 19. When I started developing, I was like 9, and it was just something about curiosity. I was really curious about how computers worked, and like when I saw a file, let's say if you use Windows, you know what that exe file is,
Yeah.
the executable file. So when I saw those kind of files, I was just like, how can I make that file? How can I make an executable? Why do we have these files in kits? So curiosity point to another.
Yeah.
And I really have to thank curiosity because that's what has made me the developer I am today. And so I just started looking through the files of my computer. I started breaking the computer too multiple times. I'm downloading viruses just because of the sake of curiosity and all that. So one experience led to another, and I started developing. At first, I was a PHP developer, so I started developing websites with PHP, and then I moved on to C Sharp, and then with C Sharp, I kind of extended to more of a backend development. And when I started with backend development, I was like, no, I don't want to go to front end, like building websites. I mean, building like the front end of the web, or even using PHP. When I started developing with C Sharp, I was like, why do I need PHP? I'm actually a hater of PHP. So if you ask me to use PHP, I would say no, I hate it. So yeah, it's a funny story. I've been developing, if you calculate it, I've been developing for the last 10 years, even though I have a professional experience of about 4 years and a year and a half in largest tech companies. I've been developer for quite a while, and it's been all because of curiosity and how question can lead you to building and discovering new things for your life.
Yeah. So I think, like as you said, curiosity and like the passion for programming is very important. And I think professional experience, it's like not the most important thing, because I've had like developers with a lot of years of experience, and like professionally they weren't doing like so good. They maybe knew one programming language and certain like company stuff, but they've like had two jobs their entire life, and they haven't like experienced a lot of things. They just like knew what they was using at that company, and that's it. So yeah, like I think it's very important like uh, try things, to experience things, and as you said, like break things, because that's how like progress is made, and that's how new things are invented. So
Definitely.
yeah, so you said you are a hater of PHP now. So
I'm a hater of
yeah, I
PHP.
started with PHP also, and I haven't used it like in, I think, 2 years, like zero PHP lines. But I can't say I hate it, but if I would start a project right now, definitely I wouldn't use PHP. So yeah, and I also remember like a funny story for a few years ago, more years actually, about like experiencing and breaking stuff. Uh, I played a little. I was making like a USB lamp, and I burned the laptop because I don't know what I did wrong. I was like, I don't know, I think in high school or maybe little than that. I don't know. And I wanted like to build a USB lamp with some yeah. So uh,
I think that's the experience for every developer. You know, I think everyone who's into coding has at least damaged one computer or something like that. Because I mean, you have to. You know, that's what curiosity leads to. You will learn, and yeah, you will learn to code and all that, but you will also learn from bad experience, like breaking your own computer. You know,
yeah.
so I think every developer can relate to that.
Yeah, I think like right now it's a lot harder because with all these new programming languages and things like that, you can't really access the operating system anymore and things like that. Like you could do back then, like I don't know when, with C and C++ and things like that. But yeah, for sure, like it's a great thing to look back and see how you like improved over the years. And yeah, so what's your tech stack right now, because you mentioned C sharp, and like what other tools do you play with right now?
So that's a good question because I would say every developer who's into the tech field really deep,
Yeah.
every like dedicated developer has a limitless stack in the way that we're always learning new
Yeah.
things to code. Sometimes the things we know aren't sufficient, so we have to learn something new. We have to come up with new
Yeah.
solutions. So that has made my stack really extended in terms
Hmm.
of what I do and what I
Yeah.
manage. I'm mostly a Java guy. So when I started developing with C Sharp, yeah, I was in love with C Sharp, and I love C Sharp. I still
Hmm.
love it. But I then moved on to Java, and I fell in love with it harder than C Sharp. So I really like Java, and I would say that's my main stack.
Okay, so now let's move a little to like the JavaScript world. And I think everybody knows like what Node is, but I think a lot of people don't know what Deno is. So I think we should start by like telling us a little about what Deno is. And yeah.
Sure. So Deno is a secure by default runtime for TypeScript in JavaScript. And if you ask me, I love the fact that it can use TypeScript for runtime purposes.
Yeah.
Of course, everything is transpiled to JavaScript, as TypeScript is
Yeah.
not its own language. But the fact that you can write TypeScript with Deno and in a secure way, because as I said,
Yeah.
secure by default, it's really good. And what does this mean? Secure by default means with Node.js, you have many problems, many. We could spend a whole new conversation talking about the problems of Node.js.
Yeah.
And one of those problems is the security side of your application. And this means any package in Node.js can access your file system, can access your OS. Any package of Node.js can access your HTTP dispatcher and create a network essentially. Any package in Node.js can basically manipulate your computer in ways you don't even authorize or you don't even want to authorize. And that's really dangerous because when you have a application in production, you want to of the security side of your application as you can. You don't want to say, this package can affect production because this package has access to a network, for example. Just a vague example.
Yeah.
But that's what happens with now. With now happens that you don't have security. And so Deno kind of breaks down this concept, and Deno comes with this term of secure by default. So every time you use Deno, you have to authorize Deno to do whatever it's supposed to do. So for example, if you want to create an HTTP server, then you have to pass a flag to Deno authorize. Basically, you have to pass the flag allow.net, which is you telling Deno, I authorize Deno to use my network. Or when you want to use a file, when you want to read a file, when you want to write a file, there are different flags for that. So there is a flag allow read and allow write. Deno has some other things. Deno has import by URL. So in Node.js you can import by package.
Yeah.
You download the package, and when you download the package, you download the whole repository into the Node module folder, which if you use Node, you know that's a pain, the Node module folder.
Yeah.
So with imports by URL, you don't import the repository. You don't load anything. You import the piece of code you want to use. So you can actually tell Deno, tell your TypeScript file to import an URL, so an external file from your computer, from internet. And so you don't load the piece of code you want to use. You don't load the whole repository. And so that's really good, not only in terms of security, because there may be some security flaws in a repository, but the code you're using or the code you're trying to use from that repository is secure, so it's okay. So the fact you can specify what piece of code you will use by URL makes Deno really flexible in terms of security, in terms of how to import the package. And so I would say that's the main point, the strong point of Deno. That's the strong side of Deno. Of course, it has pros and cons that we can talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And like going back a little to that import thing, right now, like you can't use, because of that, you can't use NPM packages with Deno. So I've seen like a lot of people complaining about the fact that you can't use NPM packages, and I've seen I haven't done any research, but I've seen like a few like transpilers, compilers kind of things that like take an NPM package and try to like transpile it in
Deno file.
in like kind of a Deno file package library. So like what do you think about that? Because like there are a lot of libraries and useful things on NPM that you can't use right now with Deno. So like what do you think about this?
Sure. I think Deno is something totally new. It's a whole new concept. If we compare Deno to Node.js, we will find that they're not equally similar. We will find they're actually really different and at fundamental levels. So yes, I understand that many people are arguing and asking about support for NPM package, but it's more than that. It's actually more complicated than that. Supporting NPM package would mean changing the whole infrastructure of Deno. And so if we think in terms of production, we're already in version 1.2. So we don't want to adapt that kind of things, because it's basically we will be getting back 0.1, so that it's a whole breaking change if we do it, and it's not worth it, because as I said, Deno is something new. So when you code in Deno, you have to think like coding in Deno. You have to think like you're using Deno.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've seen throughout my experience in the Deno community. Many people talk about Deno. Many people go to Deno, and they're still thinking in the Node.js way, and that's wrong. That's totally wrong, because as I said, Deno is something totally new. So when you use Deno for solutions, you have to come up with a Deno solution. You cannot come up with a Node.js solution for Deno. And so, going back to your question about the packages, yeah, there are many packages that are really useful, really, really useful, and that we may want to use in Deno. But it's really everything. You have to put the pros and the cons of using NPM packages in Deno. And then when you do that, you will realize it's better and it's more worth it creating your package or creating your implementation of Node.js packages in Deno rather than implementing the existing one. So I think it's a topic of discussion. It's a really hot topic in the Deno community. Um, but I definitely, from my perspective, I don't think it's worth the discussion.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
think we should be discussing about it. If we're creating Deno, then what's the point of using an npm package?
Yeah. Yeah. So like another very like controversial uh, thing and statement that I've seen a lot after like Deno was released was about will Deno replace Node in the future? Like I think I've seen this
Sure.
question like a million times. So like what's your answer to this question?
Look, that's something I've seen on many websites, many Telegram forums. I've seen the
Yeah.
question everywhere, actually, on Reddit.com,
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere. And I can stand the question. I cannot. And thinking that Node.js, that Deno will replace Node.js is just naive. It's really naive. And I'll tell you the reasons. Node.js is a business-like system. So what does it mean? It means that Node.js is being used for about 4 billion of computers. 4 billion. We're not talking about thousands. We're not talking about millions. We're talking about billions. And so when you see that number, when you
Yeah.
see that Node.js is being used for about 4 billions of computer, you see that Node.js provides stability, and you see that Node.js is used in production. We're not talking about some guy that's using Node.js in their home. We're talking about a whole company like PayPal, like Microsoft, like Tesla,
Yeah.
like Facebook, like Twitter. They're all using Node.js. So they're not going to change their infrastructure to Deno just because Deno is new. Node.js is already benefiting them, and it's already providing them production stability, which is the most important thing in a company. And so they're not gonna say like, oh yeah, let's change our whole infrastructure. Let's just do it. Let's break down our whole system just because we want to be modern with Deno. That's not gonna happen. Deno is now here, and Ryan Dahl, the creator of Deno, same creator of Node.js, for those who don't know, Ryan Dahl has said it multiple times. Ryan Dahl has said Deno is not a replacement for Node.
So, like, if you would start a project right now, would you use Dino, or do you think like it's too young to like start a, I mean, a production product that will probably have a lot of users and things like that? Do you think like Dino is too young right now, or you would start using it?
I've talked about it multiple times in my dev tattoo account, and it's a really hot topic, another hot topic in the Deno community, and this is mainly because we don't know what Deno is. We still don't know what Deno is. In terms of Deno, it's in its 1.1.2 version, so we don't know what Deno is. We don't know what Deno is heading, where Deno is heading. We just don't know. We have a lot of uncertainty about it. And for example, a week ago there was a whole breaking change in Deno 1.0, 1.2, and that breaking change affected many Deno packages. Many. It was a mess. And really, when you have those kind of things happening, um, you just you just don't know if you
Yeah.
could use in production, because you don't want to treat a production environment with something like Deno, which is in its early version. So you will have a lot of breaking change coming,
Yeah.
and that's normal. That's totally normal. I understand the point. Deno is in its early version, so the Deno authors are making a lot of progress, a lot of improvement, but that progress, that improvement comes with breaking change in many cases. So really, that's something you have to see. And so, going back to your question, would I use Deno for production right now? I would highly recommend to not use it. And why is this? Because you have a lot of instability, you have a lot of uncertainty. When you go to production, you want to be assured as possible that your application is reliable. You don't
Yeah.
want to tell your users, oh, the website stopped working because you know it's unstable. Your users will just don't care,
Yeah.
They won't care about it. They will just say, okay, why do I have to care about
Yeah.
Deno and whatever, So that's the real scenario. That's that when you have users, you have to. And yeah, I don't think it's production ready. I think we're getting
Mhm.
there, and I think the future looks bright. I think the future looks really bright for Deno, but I don't think we're yet in the point of
Yeah.
production ready.
Okay, so now let's shift a little to Mandarin. So first of all, I think you should tell us what Mandarin is.
Sure. So Mandarin is an MVC framework for Deno, and since Deno use TypeScript, Mandarin supports TypeScript all the
Yeah.
way. And basically, Mandarin is a MVC decorator driven framework. This means every core functionality, such as Mandarin is an MVC framework. So, for instance, it's a backend framework. So every time you want to create something like an endpoint, you want to you want to create some sort of um, procedure
Yeah.
between the client and the backend. Then everything is pretty much based on decorators, on
Hmm.
TypeScript decorators. That makes your application really flexible and readable in terms of how your code is written.
Okay, so why Mandarin? How did you how did you come up with this name?
Sure. So it's a funny, interesting question, I would say, because if I don't think many people think about this, but if you think about it, many technologies or many versions have a name named after some sort of food.
Mm,
So, for example, we have Apple, and we have for the Android
yeah.
versions we have Android
Yeah.
Oreo, Android Marshmallow, and for JavaScript we have JavaScript Vanilla. So many things in the I don't know why. That's something that other researchers will have to investigate. But many things
Yeah.
in the development community are named after a fruit, after some sort of food. So I was the right name to name it. I think Mandarin was really sticky, because you wouldn't forget about a fruit. It's just Mandarin.
Yeah.
So really, um, I think that's the story behind that. You just I don't know why that happens in the development community. So many fruits in the development community. But yeah, we have that, and that's the reason.
Yeah. Okay, so for how long have you been working on Mandarin?
I've been working on Mandarin for the last 4 months and a half,
Well,
and we're already in version 1.2.1. We have over Mandarin has over 14,000 lines of code. So it's a really, really big project.
So, like, how many time did you invested in those like 4 months in writing it? Because yeah, as you said, it's like you've done a lot in 4 months. So, how much time do you think like you've invested in it so far? In terms like I don't know
Countless.
hours.
It's countless. It's countless. I've invested in Mandarin. I've invested in so many hours. I wouldn't know. Some days, which I don't like. I don't like coding in the weekends. I don't
Yeah.
usually do it. But some days I spend the whole weekend coding for Mandarin because there's something to fix. There's a hot fix. There's a really requested feature.
Yeah.
And so when you have an open source project, you have to provide stability and you have to provide what the users want. It's kind of like a social contract. You sign up when you do a open source project, even though you're not getting anything like money out of it, you're still committed to it. So I'm really committed to Mandarin. And so sometimes I just spend 10 hours, 9 hours, 8 hours, just like a normal work journey day. Um, Sometimes I don't call Mandarin at all. So some days I don't call it. Some days I do for a couple hours, maybe more
Yeah.
one day, maybe less. But in terms of how many hours I have invested, it's countless. I've invested so much, so much.
Yeah, so I think
Uh,
like that's kind of the definition of being like a passionate programmer. As you said, like you don't count the hours and okay, today I work 4 hours, so tomorrow 4 hours. And yeah, it's like you like code as much as you need and as much as yeah. So how it is like to run an open source project? How it's been?
it's the most interesting thing that has ever happened to me. And I have to running an open source project has given me one of my greatest experiences in the development field. I have come to meet great people.
Hmm.
I have come to meet really, really smart people. And that's something that really sticks to me.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the Deno community, we have the Deno Discord chat. We have really no like Ryan Dahl.
Hmm.
Again, he's the creator
Yeah.
of Deno and the creator of Node.js. So when you see those people talking in or other day interacting with you, and when you see the issues that go over the Deno community, like where Ryan Dahl is constantly participating, you just feel thankful about having so many knowledgeable people in this community, and you feel it's
Yeah.
just um, there are so many knowledgeable people, and it's just a contribution and a direct contribution
Hmm.
to do to what you want to call. And I would call it the greatest experience of my life as of right now.
Yeah.
Working, going back to your question, that is for Mandarin. How is it to run an open source project? Look, it takes time. It takes dedication. I will not lie. If you're going to work on an open source project, you have to commit to it. You have to be sure you have the time. You have to be
Hmm.
sure you can you have to be sure people can rely on you, because this is what on an open source project you're telling people they can use your project. You're telling people, yeah, feel free to use my code. Feel free to use my code in production environments. And so you have to be reliable. And so the only way for you to be reliable in an open source project is by dedicating time. You can if you don't have time or you don't feel just like coding for that, don't do it. Really, don't do it, because it will affect the community and it will affect the community in bad ways. But if you have the time and you have the coding experience, you would definitely, I would say, definitely go for it. It's really interesting when you look at people using your code. when you look at people using what you created, what your brain created, it's such a nice and undescribable experience. Just think about it. You create a code and people all over the world use it from one day to the other.
Yeah.
Overnight. It's just something really great to feel. But you have to be committed to it. Because you will get issues, reporting bugs, people reporting, I want this feature, this bug is happening, this and that. Oh, my application stopped working because of this. Smart enough and dedicated enough to take control over that kind of things. Because when people rely on you, that's something you really have to be thankful about. And that means when people rely on you and they're relying their whole applications on your code, you have to be really careful about how you do things and when you will do things.
Yeah, so right now, like looking back on a Mandarin, if you would start a new open source project, would you do anything different, or like having the experience from Mandarin right now?
Sure. That's an interesting question because there are many things that when I look back, I would say, why did I do this? Why did I even do this? And for example, I have had a lot of struggling with documentation. At first, I didn't document anything. I was just coding Mandarin,
Yeah.
and the documentation was pretty bad. And so right now, I really regret about it. Right now, we have a good documentation. Don't get me wrong. Mandarin has a really good documentation, really extensive. But there are many things that are not documented. And so that was lazy to write a documentation. And so right now, I have tons of work of Mandarin, an open source project of writing documentation that the users need, documentation that developers need. And because I didn't do it at the first moment, right now I just have a bad list. So that's something I really regret about being lazy and not writing documentation. And I would say the second thing that I regret about the way I handle things with Mandarin is the part of code refactoring. So the first few days, the first few weeks that I started working with Mandarin, I didn't do any code refactoring. I was just okay, let's code and let's do it. And so right now, what we're seeing, Mandarin is pretty stable. Don't get me wrong. Mandarin is you can use Mandarin right now and you will have a great experience. But in the internal code of Mandarin, there are many code that needs to be refactored, and this is because we're having performance issues. Mandarin is good at performance, but it could be way better, and it could be way better if I had done the refactor when it had to do it, and I didn't do it. And so right now I just have a bunch of lines of code that are affecting performance. I have a bunch of lines of code that are affecting the life cycle of Mandarin. And so it's something right now, it's kind of like a snowball.
Yeah.
It grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And so right now, when I look at it, I'm not looking at the 100 lines code that Mandarin was once. I'm looking at a 14,000 lines code that I have to refactor, you know? So that's something you really sticks to your mind.
Yeah. So what are your plans with Mandarin right now? Like, where do you see Mandarin in, I don't know, a year, for example?
Sure. It's an interesting question because Mandarin, as well as we know, Mandarin runs on the Deno platform. And this means the instability of Deno makes Mandarin unstable. And so, as we mentioned before, Deno in its version 1.2 broke many packages. And one of the packages that was actually really affected, was Mandarin. And so, when you have those kind of things happening, the future is really uncertain, not because of you. You as a coder, you're doing everything you can, but you rely on other platforms. I rely on Deno. So everything that happens inside Deno is something that directly affects me. But the goal for Mandarin, and right now the roadmap that we have for Mandarin is we want to release the website, an official website for Mandarin that we're actually releasing this week at the end of this week
Okay.
or something. And then from there we would start trying to get contributors and sponsors because we want Mandarin to grow. And and so we want Mandarin to grow, and so we need contributors, we need sponsors.
Yeah.
We need to find as many people as we can, not only to collaborate with Mandarin, but to use Mandarin in production. We need people to take the risk of using Mandarin in production because that's the way it is.
Yeah,
Right now,
sure.
Mandarin is unstable because of Deno, but we still need people to use Mandarin in production if we want to grow.
Yeah, sure.
And so, in the long term, the main goal of Mandarin is being stable for production. That's our main goal right now. Everything we're coding, every refining, every bug fix, every feature we're adding is just to be production ready, to be as reliable as possible for companies, for enterprises, because that's the main goal of Mandarin. The main goal of Mandarin is solving enterprise problems. So we want to be as reliable as possible. It's a great roadmap. There's a lot of work to do, and it's an interesting roadmap. It's a really interesting roadmap. But we're getting there, and I see Mandarin in a year being really popular in terms of production readiness, packages for Deno. I think Deno Mandarin will do really well for the Deno, will help the Deno community, and I think Deno will help us too.
Yeah, for
Deno
sure.
is growing.
Yeah, I think like it's a great thing that what you've done, and I think like that's the definition of being like a passionate programmer, and I'm sure like it will grow, and it will become very like used and popular, and like part of that it's like always like as you said, like that depends on the developer. If you like put in the work, and you like stick to that and work on that, for sure like the results will come. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, and especially because you said you've done all this in 4 months, is how do you stay motivated and how do you stay productive, especially also like having a job and splitting all your time. So how can you do that?
Well, it's something that many developers have asked me account. Um, and it's still an interesting question to me because I don't have the whole answer for that. And I try to have it. I try to answer that question as good as I can, but I just don't have the whole answer. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you my experience from how do I stay motivated. The first thing that I do to stay motivated is knowing why I'm coding. I created Mandarin because it was a unique product in the Deno community. It was a unique package.
Yeah.
And so that gives me the motivation that something unique is in the Deno community. So really, when you call something, you have to make sure it's something that motivates you in the way that you have to ask yourself, would I do this if didn't exist? Would I do this if Node.js didn't exist?
Yeah.
And so that will lead you to some more questions and some more answers about how do you stay motivated. But one of the first things that you have to look at is why you're doing it. Really, what's the reason behind that? Are you looking for money? Are you looking for being famous? What are you looking
Yeah.
for? Because if you're looking for money, I don't think you will succeed. Really, if you're creating an open source project and you're looking for money, I don't even think
Yeah.
your repository will get 1 star. And this is because the open source community doesn't care about money. It does not. Look at those whole open source projects like Deno, like Node.js, like I don't know, from Netflix. Those projects really, they receive money for the contributors through sponsors, but it's not a direct thing to the sense of the project. You start coding and things are added. That's it.
Yeah.
So if your main goal is to make money out of a project, you won't succeed, because that's not the way things happen. You first need a reliable code, a reliable application. Then when people are using it, people will still want to use it, and for that they will pay you with collaborations, with donations, basically, to the foundations of your project. And so, really, keep your reasons realistic, and you will stay motivated. Don't don't be unrealistic when it comes to coding. Don't think you're going to, I don't know, create a virtual quantum computer, because you will get frustrated. Yeah, it sounds like an awesome project, but you have to be realistic on the kind of projects
Yeah.
you take, because otherwise, when you start coding and you start running into issues, or running into the fact that many people aren't using your project as you took the wood, then you will stay unmotivated. And this leads me to say, I didn't expect many people to use Mandarin. Right now, about that I know, about 6 or 7 people are using Mandarin, and I didn't expect that, really. I was coding Mandarin because it was a fun
Yeah.
project. Was really new. I saw an opportunity there. I saw an opportunity of creating a package for Deno, which is still really new. So that was it. I wasn't expecting people using Mandarin anytime soon. I didn't see it possible, but it happened.
Yeah, and like as you said, it's important to set realistic goals, because like if you, as you said, if you like target something you will never achieve. For example, I don't know, make the human fly or things like that. Uh, it will like do exactly the opposite, and it will like bring you down and demotivate you, and because you will try every day and won't achieve it. So yeah, it's like important to like target high, but like not too high. So
Right.
yeah. So like what advice would you have for people that like want to start something out? For example, I don't know, an open source project, an app, or like basically anything, and like they are afraid they won't succeed. And as you said, like maybe I say, okay, but no one will use it, and why should I start it, and things like that. Because uh, I just finished university like right a few days ago. So um, like I know a lot of people that have the skills to build awesome things, but like they just say, okay, but no one will use it, I won't succeed with it, so like why should I bother starting or trying? So like what advice do you have for like this kind of thoughts and this kind of
Sure. The first thing you have to be aware of, don't do it for the people. Do it because it's fun. Do it because you can do it. And I've seen that issue too. I can relate to what you're saying. Many people have like the opportunity to learn something new, something new as a language, as a new technology, something they can put on their resumes. But they don't do it because they're afraid of that people will not use it. Or the common reason, I would say this is the most common reason, they're afraid of not making money out of it. Really, I've seen many people, oh no, I won't call this. Even though I like the idea, I won't call it because, well, I won't make money out of it. Really, you have to get your reasons straight. You have to get why you're coding for straight. You have to be straight about what you're doing. If you're coding for money and you're not coding because you're passionate, then go and look for a job.
yeah.
There are companies that are looking for a developer. So yeah, if you want to get money, then yeah, get a job, and you will get money out of being a developer. But if you're more than that, if you're more than being a developer for money purposes, and you're a passionate developer,
Yeah.
then start doing it. Really, don't think about it too much. Just do it because it's fun. Do it because you can do it. Do it because you have the idea and you have the fundamentals to do it. And for those people who want to get into programming but they don't know how, and this is something that I've seen on my Instagram account
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
seen on the society. Many people ask, how can I get into programming? I want to get into programming, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
This happens all the time. Really, my main advice is stay stick stick to what you want and start doing it. Because I've seen many people, I want to get into programming, but I don't know what language. Really, don't care about the language, programming. Go and get some JavaScript course, and you're already getting into programming. I've seen many people, I want to get into programming, but I don't know what to develop. Don't care about it right now. Just
Yeah.
just go for the tutorial on YouTube. Basic steps. Go for a tutorial on YouTube, pay a course or something, but get related to programming. And I emphasize this because I've seen many people, as I have said, they want to get into programming, but they don't just like the starts. I've seen many people, oh yeah, I want to get into programming. I want to code an artificial intelligence. So yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
You're just getting into programming, and that's great. You have that kind of mindset. That's totally great. But you have to go step by step. Programming is not some sort of magic. It's reading through lines of code. It's coding through lines of lines, and so that's really something you gotta have present.
Yeah, and like going back a little on something you said, it's like a lot of people, and part of that is they've seen a lot of, like, I think, unrealistic stories, or maybe like stories that worked for 1 2 people, and uh, I'm talking about like people that saying I've become a developer in 2 months and things like that, and like a lot of people seeing those kind of stories when like 2 months passed and they are not a developer yet, they get like frustrated and things like that, and say get thoughts like, okay, I'm never going to become a developer, or I can't do this, or things like that. And like a lot of people don't think as to being a developer as like a road, and they kind of think of it just like, okay, today I'm not a developer, but tomorrow I'm a developer. And they don't think like to it like getting from point A to point B, and like uh they I mean, you you aren't like today you aren't a developer and tomorrow are a developer. You have to go to, it's like a process, and like every day you learn more and you improve yourself. And yeah, a lot of people want like to become a developer just like that, and I don't know, they think, okay, I'm gonna buy this Udemy course, and after I finish it,
Mhm.
I'm a developer. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a problem because
yeah.
you see these people telling you, I'm a full stack developer. That's what they tell you, and then you ask them, how are you a full stack? And then they tell you, I did 3 courses on Udemy, and you're just like this. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is not happening,
Yeah,
and that's happening a lot.
yeah,
That's happening a lot. I see many people
yeah.
just taking their developers because they did some sort of course or bootcamp,
Yeah,
and so I don't think that's good. You have to be really realistic. Developing is more than a career. Developing is a life process.
yeah,
You don't stop being a developer once you are a developer. You start learning new things. It's an infinite process.
yeah,
We talk about
exactly.
technology. Technology is growing so
Yeah,
fast. So is development. So you will always be learning
yeah.
development.
And like the most important thing, it's like your mindset and your way of thinking, because like languages, frameworks, and things like that, like they're just tools that probably in 4 or 5 years, uh I don't know, will like us, I don't like 4 years ago, jQuery was trending.
Right.
Today, no one will use jQuery like when starting, I don't know, a full production project or things like that. And like things were trending and were like very popular 4 years ago, today are barely used. So uh, yeah, exactly. It's like you have to build that mindset, and you can't expect like to have that mindset in 3 months or after you watch a YouTube tutorial series or things like that. And like another very common issue that I've seen is like people reading and watching a lot of things, but uh, they don't practice any of it. It's like, I don't know, I watch two Udemy courses and one YouTube playlist, and I read I don't know, React documentation, but I don't write any line of code. So like I've seen this uh, happening to a lot of people, and I think it's like wrong, because reading and like seeing a lot of information like so fast, your brain like can't assimilate it and like can't process it. So like when you eventually get into writing your first line of code, you'll be like, okay, but I forgot almost everything. So
Right.
you go back and watch it again. So uh,
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've seen many people wanting to get into develop just because some friend of theirs told them that when you get into develop, you will work at Google, and so your company will have this sick park and
yeah,
this
yeah,
like really nice office, and that's really not the world out there. If you're going to develop, you have to expect to be a office developer, just a common developer. Yeah, there are great companies. Trust me, I've worked in great companies, in great startups company, and I've had some great environments, but it's not the common, The common is actually being in office. Technology companies is another thing, but you have to be aware that when you're a developer, you will not always go to a technology company. You will not always go to Twitter, to Uber, to Google, to you.
yeah,
There are many companies that are not technology, but they still require developers.
yeah, yeah,
And so you can,
yeah, yeah,
I've seen that issue.
exactly,
I've seen
exactly.
that many people watch YouTube videos and watch YouTube video like my life experience being a developer. And then you
Yeah,
you open the video and it's just so corporate cringe because they're just showing a lot of food and a lot of, I don't know,
yeah,
animals inside the office and thing. And that kind of confused many people that want to get into programming. Many people that want to get into programming, they're using, oh, that's my life as a developer, and it's really not.
yeah,
There are companies who that do it, but it's not, as I said, it's not the common. You have to think that there are major companies which are the most famous one, but there are medium term and small term companies that actually require developers too, and they're not like that. So don't get into programming just because you want to get some food at your company.
yeah. And like I'm glad you mentioned this, because uh I like remember another thing, and like finishing university recently and high school and things like that. I've seen like a lot of people that when you ask them, okay, but why did you get into programming or things like that, is because they answer you something like because programmers are paid well. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like that's the reason. So uh, yeah, I think, as you said, you like you don't have to think about money. And because if you like think everything money related, uh you like won't learn anything, because like, okay, but why should I spend 3 months, I don't know, learning React or Angular or things like that, instead of like okay, getting this HTML, CSS, jQuery job, and
Sure.
earn, I don't know. Yeah, so it's like how to put it, kind of a harmful mentality, like to think
Mm-hmm.
everything money related, because we like stop you from evolving and from learning new things. And as you said earlier, like this programming IT world moving so fast, and like something that we use today probably we won't use 4 years
Mm-hmm.
later. It's like I, I'll say stupid to like think that okay, I've learned this language today, and I'll use this in my entire life and I'll be just fine, because like you won't.
Yeah, exactly. You won't. You're always
Yeah,
adapting to the involvement of the community.
yeah, and like
Always.
yeah, and a big part of that, like you have to do yourself, because no one will come to you and say okay, I'm going to learn you this whole new stack, and I'll also give you $1 million. It's like you
Exactly.
first you have to put in the work and learn it, and after that people will come and okay, I'll pay you this and this and for your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And also like knowledge, and of course like dedication and passion, because for sure you can spot like a passionate programming and I don't know, a random dude that's like just doing this for money. Like very, you can spot them very easily. And yeah,
It's like that. It's like that.
yeah,
I'm definitely, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with everything you're saying. I think it's a problem that we have so many unrealistic goals in the community.
yeah.
But well, what can we do?
Yeah. So thank you like for agreeing to do this, especially like being in a in a different time zone. It's like 4 p.m. for me, but what's the time there for you?
Right now it's 8:55 a.m.
Yeah, it's
here. We started really early.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like thank you for that, and it was a great talk, and I really enjoy like talking to developers, and I think it's like very important like to keep this social side active as a developer, not just code every day and every
Right.
yeah,
Right. No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I had a lot of fun doing this podcast.
yeah,
As I said, it was my first podcast, so I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me today, and really, we had a really nice conversation, knowledgeable. I think
yeah,
many people will appreciate
yeah,
what we talk here, and I just hope for everyone who's listening here, I just hope that you can use the advices we both gave. Really, if you want to get into programming, just go straight into it. Don't think about it too much. We need more developers in the
yeah,
community, so feel free to start being a developer because we want you. And yes, thank you. The time zone wasn't a problem. I
yeah,
wanted to be here,
yeah,
so I appreciate it, and I look forward to sharing again our experience. I look forward to recording a new
yeah.
episode in the
Sure,
future.
sure. Sure. Yeah. So thank you very much, and good luck to work. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on Mandarin.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye.